let's look at the unusual shape of this bed and how we're going to transform this area into strawberries, which are perennial, and have abundance and fresh strawberries for years to come. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. So first off, this is a pie slice on a hill. I don't know how I can show you, but this side right here is much higher than down there. Now, strawberries need well-drained soil, and you usually grow strawberries on mounds anyway. But what we're doing here is we have a terrace, and I'm going to cultivate this terrace in order to have several mounds that strawberries are going to go on. Now, why are the mounds going this way rather than long way on the bed? So you'll see in most of the other areas, the rows are being planted long way. This way is being planted with rows that go across the hill. Now, so here's what we're doing here. The trails, the little paths that I'd walk on, they're going to be perfectly level. And on the back, at the top of the hill, there's going to be a level channel. So what do you think is going to happen when it rains? Go ahead and write it down in the comments. Well, what's going to happen when it rains is that water is going to fill this back trench, and it's going to flow carefully out onto these rows, and then it'll get wicked up into the beds where the strawberries are. Now again, strawberries need well-drained soil, and we may not get a lot of rain, but any rain we get will be soaked and spread into the soil itself. Now, you see people talk about no-till, no-dig, all these different variations of gardens. Now, each of them have their own space. What we're demonstrating here is from Africa and China, and it's a means of terrace farming. And what happens with the terraces is we have access on the bottom. So when you watch the next video, you'll see it all finished. But we have access on the bottom, which is basically trails. I'm going to cut all this grass. And then we have the beds so that they're best oriented with the sun and with the slope of the terrace itself. That back edge needs to be dug out probably 2 feet. Now, am I going to dig it out 2 feet today? Hell no. But over time, as we dig out that back channel and we mound these beds, we're going to have what's called a bund, which that's what I'm walking on right now, the bund. And that's going to be packed down hard, full of clay. And then within that will be beds that'll have much more nutrients in it. Now, if strawberries grow here, we want to grow the strawberries in place for 2 or 3 years to build a nice big crown. And those nice big crowns will be removed. And then this area can be layered with materials and used for something else. But ultimately, while the strawberries are there, we don't want them in the dirt. So we're going to put the strawberries in place, and then we're going to put straw around the strawberries and keep mounding in different types of biomass in this particular area. Like I said, I'll cut down all of the grasses on either side, and I'll mound those in the bed to protect the strawberries from touching the soil. Another factor that we have in this type of garden is that we want our rows easily accessible. So rather than double reach rows, we're going to have single reach rows so that we can get our strawberries in them. And then we're going to start, now when those little seedlings come out, we're going to concentrate those little seedlings on the beds themselves and really just get it bulked up with strawberries and straw, and even put biomass or wood chips in the paths itself. So we're not really digging, like double digging. We're basically mounding up the soil. The soil is a little moist, so it is a little harder to move. But anytime I find a small plant like this, for example, this is a brassica, I'll transplant those, and we'll essentially have rows coming down here. Now, the pathway that I'm walking on is not quite level, so I'll dig out more up top and less in the bottom, so that as we have water fill this area, it'll flow through and flush itself with nutrients. Now, what do I mean by that? That means the nutrients will come down the main channel and then go off into the different walking paths that are each individually, not contoured, but leveled so that the water flows into them, but doesn't flow into them and over the outside edge. But again, we're building out this area, and in 2 years it could be something completely different, but we are moving towards what is going to self-water, what is going to be best for the plants that we're planting here, and then what will be easy to maintain over time. So I could do the same thing mounding with the mounds like this and put potatoes in here, or sweet potatoes, because I know the sweet potatoes or those things will get dug up. And I'm not sure you can see this on the camera, but where I'm standing is at a high point, and it slopes down this way, and it slopes that way, and then it kind of slopes this way. So what I'm going to also be doing is correcting the earthworks here while the soil is still pliable, while the soil is still young, and as we're turning that soil over with biomass in it. Now, we're not turning it over to till. Remember, I only tilled a couple inches here, just enough to terminate the cover crops. So we're literally scooping the soil into mounds. Those mounds are designed to slow and spread water. They're in a favorable sun direction for the area, but they're also in a favorable direction so that when water comes down, it will flow back into these paths. So it'll flow back into this path. It'll flow back into this path. Now again, strawberries are perennial, and these strawberries will be here for 2 to 3 years. So the small amount of effort it takes to mound these beds up, which each bed will be a different height, and then the beds at the bottom will likely be, the beds in the middle will likely not be high or low. The beds at the bottom will likely be high, and then of course the bed at the top will be high because it's the higher elevation. But we're doing this again because we want to serve the plant so it can produce the greatest abundance. And that means good drainage. It means no standing water. It means a soil that's going to move nutrients around. And of course, the biomass on the surface so that our strawberries are not going to be touching the soil when it rains and such. And by the way, I will eat some of these pea tips because they're nice and sweet and tasty. So nothing goes to waste. We're building the soil. We're adapting for the plants. We're getting the best use out of space and areas, and we're really not putting in a lot of extra calorie work to get the results that we're looking for. And finally, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. I will get this whole project done, and then I'll take a video of it and show you kind of the work in result. You know, what does it look like when it's done? And then I'll have a couple other questions that'll get answered at the other point. But remember then, each of these paths are level so that water soaks and spreads. And then the channel at the end connects them all together. This way we're watering our strawberries from a wicking function, meaning the water is underneath the strawberries. And then we're using on the surface straw to keep the strawberries from having the splashback of rain. See you in the next video.